Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. Well, it is a Tuesday in my mid-Missouri Zone 6 garden, and that means for me, Tuesdays are designated as my days for trimming. So those of you that have seen many of my videos know that I happen to have the great good fortune of gardening on 10 acres. But with that space comes a lot of garden tasks. And so the way that I like to kind of manage all of that, because it can be stressful and overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Where do I start? For me, I like to designate each day of the week to a specific task. And of course, as I said, Tuesdays mean trimming. So in today's video, I'm just going to take you guys along with me on this Tuesday and show you what are some things that I consider jobs that I consider to be trimming jobs. And no, I don't mean trimming like using your weed trimmer to trim around things. That's my husband's job to do the trimming all around the property. But I'm talking about things like pruning, deadheading, thinning things, and trimming out things that need some attention. So before I get into talking about and showing you how, why, what, and when to do these trimming tasks, I'm going to invite everybody to please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for supporting my channel. Those of you that might be new and just found Garden Time with Belle, I'm going to invite you to click that subscribe button so that when I upload new videos, which I try in the summer especially to publish videos a couple of times a week. Usually it's a Wednesday or a Saturday or Sunday. So if you click that subscribe button, that's going to pop up in your YouTube feed. And so you'll be able to see when I've posted some new garden content. So I don't know if you're like me, but late spring and early summer is such an exciting time in the garden because most of us are spending our time planting baskets, planting veggie crops, planting all kinds of things in our garden, putting in new shrubs and perennials, maybe even planting some trees. The planting is amazing. However, we have to take care of those beautiful plants that we're so careful in selecting. And so we need to talk about a very important part of your ongoing maintenance in your garden so that those plants can be healthy. And that is, of course, trimming kinds of things like pruning and etc. So let's talk about why. Why is it important? Why do your plants love it when you do a prune or a deadhead and a trimming? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, when you trim your plants, prune, deadhead, whatever you want to call it, it improves the health of your plants. When you cut plants back or cut off old blooms, that plant can then put the energy into producing new blooms, new flowers, new fruit, new veggies, new herbs. So trimming is essential to the health of your plants, but also the production of your plants. And of course, another benefit from trying to do your best to regularly trim up things in your garden is because it just improves the look of your plants. It really can make them look so much fresher and prettier. If they're overgrown and maybe you've got several different plants together, it can give the plants air to breathe and can really help the health of all of your plants. So it's part of what we do. It's not just the fun part, but we have to do the maintenance part. And I hope today's video will show you not only the value in it, but that it can be fun and interesting to do this kind of regular maintenance on your garden plants. So in terms of what we're going to be doing today in the garden, I'm going to bring you along with me and we're just going to explore. If I look at it and it looks like it needs some help, some kind of trimming, we're going to do it. But I know for sure that my roses, my baptisia, my peonies, they're going to need a little sprucing up. I know that there are some perennials where they bloom in the spring and I want to trim off the old blooms. And then for sure, we're going to go into my raised veggie garden and my cut flower garden because there's plenty of things in there that not only need a little trimming, but I need to do a little bit of thinning of some of the crops like carrots. I might be pinching some of my dahlia starts. That helps them branch out and that kind of thing. So as we go around, I'm going to show you specific ways. So the how of it, how do you best trim or deadhead certain plants? Because each plant sometimes requires some different approaches. So I want to kind of make sure I cover that today in our garden walkabout and trimming session. And then we might talk about when. So as we go around, when should I be trimming these things? When is the best time of year to do some cutback? And so we'll cover all of those things. So, I'm just going to grab the camera. We're going to get started going around the property and get this Tuesday trimming off to a great start. You don't need very many tools for this Tuesday trimming job, but let me say that you definitely want to get your hands on some high quality pruners. I use my pruners every single day in the garden. So I happen to like Felco, but there are lots of high quality pruner brands. So get your hands on those. Those that are interested, the small ones are a Felco 310 and the larger pruners are a Felco 6. I have small hands and these fit perfectly. So invest in some high quality pruners, just like you should, in my opinion, invest in high quality knives. If you do much cooking like I do, you only need 3 or 4 different types of knives in your kitchen inventory. As long as they're high quality knives, you can have the same knife forever. I have knives in there that I've had for close to 30 years. I occasionally get them professionally sharpened, probably once a year, and they are just workhorses in the kitchen. These Felco can be my workhorses, of course, in the garden. Gonna have some garden gloves today, so that's all the other thing I need. And then you might be wondering what the heck this is. These are my disinfecting wipes. They are my homemade disinfecting wipes. All I did was took a bunch of paper towels, put it in this little zip bag and doused it with some rubbing alcohol. Very important that you clean or rub your pruners off with rubbing alcohol between plants. You don't want to transfer diseases or any kind of infections that one plant might have to another by, clipping this rose bush and then going over there. So I know it's an extra step to take, but if you've ever transferred disease from one plant to another because you didn't clean off your pruners, you know what I'm talking about. And then lastly, you need something to put all the stuff in that you trim off of your plants. I have this little tub for my roses because if I trim off much of my roses, I don't compost my rose trimmings. I prefer to dispose of my rose trimming somewhere else in the property, but almost everything else you'll see me trimming and cutting today, I'll put in my big pop-up bag, and that goes definitely into my compost bin. All right, enough talking. Let's get to trimming. So here I am at my Gertrude Jekyll climbing rose. She is having the best time. She really flushes out big time in May, and then she'll take a little siesta, and then she's a repeat bloomer, which is great. So I brought the camera in closely because what I'm going to do with this rose today is I'm going to do what they call deadheading. And that would be when you see a rose that has kind of spent its blooms, it's done, these particular flowers are done. I want to get rid of that so that the energy doesn't go to producing seed, it goes back into producing more flowers. So I'm not going to deadhead something like this, but something like this is definitely ready to be deadheaded. And so what I like to do is, and I hope I can get this on camera, I am going to follow this stem down to where I see a set of 5 leaves. So do you see? Hopefully you can see this on camera. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to cut right above this little side shoot that has 5 leaves. So let me see if I can snip this off, get my arms out of the way so you can see. Boom, just like that. And then I'm just going to toss that in that little pink container. So this is what I'm left with. Doing this is going to allow this rose to send out another flower right above this with 5 leaves. Now, do you have to absolutely always do it this way? Heck no, you don't have to. But you know what? I don't think this is a chore. For me, I love to come out here on a nice cool morning, cup of coffee, have some tunes playing on my phone, and just take my time with it, and just go around and do that. So that's called deadheading, when you've got spent blooms and you snip those off. You're going to leave the other ones that are looking great so that this rose bush can continue to produce more of these amazing, amazing smelling flowers. So the process that I just completed was considered deadheading, when you've got a rose bush or other kinds of things where they've done their pretty blooms and the blooms are dying anyways, and the petals, as you can see, are falling off. So you want to snip those off. This is not pruning. Pruning, technically for roses, is a whole different ball of wax, and I think I may have had a video out early spring that showed you how to actually prune your rose bushes, especially in a place where I live, this zone 6, where we need to prune our roses in late March, early April, and that's much more involved. So I'll put a link in the description below to show you how to actually prune them so that you get this kind of show a few months later. All right, let's go on to the next area that might need some trimming today. Here I am now at the south side of the house, and I've got this long garden bed that's full of false indigo or baptisia, these first 4 shrubs. And then I've got some peonies that need some attention as well. So false indigo or baptisia, if you've been watching my videos, especially the May garden tour I showed you earlier in May, they were spectacular. I've got a lemon meringue, and then this is let's see, sparkling sapphire, the purple. So I have them alternated here. Now the sparkling sapphire has still got a lot of blooms on it, so I'm going to leave that. But the lemon meringue sort of fizzled out earlier than the sparkling sapphire. So you do not have to deadhead or prune these baptisia right now. You could just leave them. Some people will leave them and they will form seed heads, which are not bad looking. However, I choose to cut out some of these spent flower stalks, because what I'm left with is a beautiful shrub for the rest of the year. And if you watch many of my videos, you hear me talking about, and I'll get the camera in so you can see what I'm talking about, but the shrub that's left, the greenery, the foliage, makes wonderful filler for doing flower arrangements. I will come out here and cut some of these stems, and wow, it can really enhance flower arrangements. So yeah, so I'm going to take after the lemon meringue these two, but I want to try to leave the flowers on the purple sapphires, because there are still a lot of pollinators that are enjoying the flowers. In fact, I see some bumblebees even on this cool morning. So again, I'm doing this trimming or pruning just for aesthetic purposes, just because I want me to be left with this gorgeous foliage and get rid of these spent blooms. So I'll just show you. I'm going to use my Felco 6s in case any of the branches are big. What I like to do, let's see if I can show you on this one. So if I pull away, I'm going to try to follow the spent bloom down a little bit away. So let me just show you. So that's how much I'm cutting off. Rather than just go boom, 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 and be left with some of this dead foliage or dead blossoms, I want to sort of hide that. So I'm going to go down inside the shrub a little bit to make my cut. And then those new cuts from pruning will be hidden by the canopy of foliage. I'll bring the camera in close so you can see what it looks like after I've done some basic deadheading. Again, you know, I didn't get them all, but that's okay. But what you're left with is this beautiful, beautiful foliage that I can be using in my cut flower arrangements. So here I am near my peonies, and I have 4 different varieties in this section. This particular one flowered first, and it lost all of its petals first. So it definitely needs to be deadheaded or pruned, because what you don't want the plant to do is to spend a lot of time turning these seeds into seeds, all its energy. So it's important to come in on these and cut them back. And then do you see the seed pods that are trying to form up? We want to take those off the plant so that it can put its energy back down into a healthy root system, so that next year it'll flush out even more beautiful. So I am going to take, after getting all of these seed pods, spent blooms off of here. The only other thing I wanted to mention to you as I do this is that where I live and garden here in a zone 6, mid-Missouri, we get very hot and humid summers, and my peonies always suffer from a powdery mildew and black spot and all kinds of things. It just is the nature of the beast. And so I will actually come in here and do a really hard cut back. So this is sort of considered deadheading, but I'm going to cut this way, way back. I'll probably do that sometime in July, and I will shear this shrub way, way down to the ground to get rid of all the yucky foliage. I'll pick up any of the fallen leaves so that it doesn't harbor over any kind of disease for next year, or at least it'll be less likely to. So today it's deadheading with a little bit of a prune when I'm going past the blooms, but really it'll be in July where I will cut this way, way back, because the foliage is going to probably end up, like it does every summer, looking pretty awful. So I'm just going to repeat that same process on this peony and this peony. These are already trying to form seed heads, which we don't want. And there's only maybe one decent flower left. And these might look decent from the camera angle, but really when you get up close, these are totally spent. So I'm going to take off all the old blooms on these 2, and we should be done with the peony job. I have moved up here to the north side of the house, and my next task for Trimming Tuesday is to trim the flowers off of my Brunnera. Brunnera are a wonderful shade, semi-shade perennial. These are relatively young. They've only been here, this will be, let's see, I planted them last summer, so they're pretty small still. But what is so lovely about Brunnera is they send up in the spring these adorable periwinkle blue little fairy flowers, I like to call them. Anyhow, they're about done blooming. So I want to go ahead and go down this stem and cut these flower stalks out of here so that, again, the energy can go back into this plant. Instead of trying to form seeds from these flowers, it can go back into the root system, and so it can grow up and fill in nicely and really put these gorgeous silvery green the foliage that makes them so special. So I'm going to grab what I think is one of the flower stems, like so, these two, and then I am going to come down to and cut to where there are no other side branches forming flowers. So do you see that? So that's going to go into the compost. Well, I think it's time for me to push pause on the Tuesday trimming. I had thought I might take you into the raised bed garden today to look at some of the herbs, cut flowers, and veggies and things that I need to trim or deadhead in there, but I'm going to save that for its own video. But I'm so glad that you were able to hang out with me today. I hope that this video inspired you and that you can embrace the value of maintaining your flowers and your shrubs and your perennials by doing that occasional trimming and sprucing up, because it really does improve the health of your plants. But also with certain kinds of plants, the more you cut, the more those blooms come again. So the more that you trim, the more blossoms and flowers that certain plants are gonna produce for you and add more beauty to your garden. Don't be afraid to cut your plants. Don't be afraid. You really can't do anything wrong unless you cut it flat to the ground. You know, plants are a lot tougher than we give them credit for. So anyhow, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. If you grow any of these perennials or shrubs or roses and you have some really great ideas that you could share with me on how you like to approach this kind of important garden chore or maintenance of your plants, please do that. I always want to learn from my viewers. So until next time, I want to wish everybody happy gardening.